Hello, nerds! Are you tired of the unbearable weight of adult responsibilities or the ever-present glare of the sun? Well, good news, because we've barricaded the doors and now you're stuck here for the next however long it takes me to go through all of the nerdy news. We have Hollow Knight releasing, Trent Reznor in the music news, Harry Potter TV drama going on, Vin Diesel is for very strange reasons in the movie news, and then we have a giant Doctor Doom rumor in the rumor mill, plus a bunch of other things to talk about. So all of this considered, this is all of the nerd-fueled rage you're going to need to survive until next week, so let's talk about the news. So I've been trying to think about this, and I think I've put a pin on the best way to describe most of my musical sensibilities. I would say that the best way to describe my taste in music is, quote, sounds that would clear the room during a dinner party. I mean, honestly, if the neighbors aren't concerned, are you even really listening? Speaking of which, let's talk about all of that noise. Follow-ups and corrections here for the music section. First up, we have Slipknot's Duality has officially reached over 1 billion plays on Spotify specifically. So it's been over 1 billion for a while, I'm sure, because there are other streaming platforms. Whether you like it or not, they do exist. But on Spotify, very specifically, Slipknot has passed 1 billion plays for Duality, which is an awful lot of times that someone has had the overwhelming urge to slip their fingers into their eyes. This is truly a milestone for angst everywhere, I would think. And for a follow-up that was kind of to be expected for all of you industrial metal heads out there, Static X has officially announced that they are going to be celebrating in true fashion their 25th anniversary of the legendary Wisconsin Death Trip with a box set of the record, which makes sense. Like I said, it is going to be a box set, but it is going to be a very limited edition. So not only will you get to relive 1999 when spiked hair and baggy pants were the height of fashion, but you'll be able to rub it in the faces of all your poor friends who couldn't afford the limited edition box set. New music and videos this week to talk about. AFI has dropped another single from their upcoming record. The name of the record is Silver Bleeds the Black Sun. The new song is called Holy Visions. The record is out October 3rd, so we've got a couple of weeks still. This is, it would seem, the very proof that goth is not dead, and as a matter of fact, alive and well. Next up in new music this week, kind of new music anyway, because it is kind of the fashion right now to be doing a collaboration with Baby Metal. They are, for some reason, taking the American audiences by storm to such a degree that everyone is doing a team up with them, and Five Finger Death Punch are no strangers to following a fad, it would seem. So they have teamed up with a reimagined version of their song The End from their upcoming reimagined Best Of record that will be out soon. I honestly don't quite know what to make of this because not the biggest fan of either of these guys, but it is definitely a thing that exists in the world. And then for a little bit of a palate cleanser to get you away from the screams of the metal world, it would seem, we have Ladytron have released a new video/song for their song I Believe in You. It is kind of electronic greatness. I don't know how else to describe Ladytron. I don't know all of the electronic subgenres, just like I willfully refuse to learn the metal subgenres to any great extent. But either way, this is going to be a fun track to just kind of be a little bit of a breath of fresh or just different air. So you're welcome. Tours and festivals, it is time to get ready to throw down because one of my favorites of the older deathcore bands is doing reunion shows. That's right, Winds of Plague have announced a series, very short series, but a series nonetheless, of tour dates starting in the end of summer, beginning of fall, depending on how you look at it. So it is time to dust off those old dusty band t-shirts and get out there and go to these shows. In news that I honestly didn't see coming, we have legendary metal, highly influential metal band that is really genre defying. They don't really fit into any one small little category, but Acid Bath have announced that they are doing a giant show in New Jersey with support from the likes of Baroness and The Skull. This is going to be later in 2026. If you are anywhere near there at the time, follow the link in the description if you want to find out where exactly that is. But if you're anywhere near there at the time, then you owe it to yourself and prosperity to go. Now let's get into some regular ass news, and kicking things off in regular ass news, we have the potentially most unholy union of things since pineapple on pizza. We have 9 Inch Nails doing the soundtrack, it would seem, to a ride at Disneyland. You heard that correctly. 9 Inch Nails are doing the soundtrack to the Tron ride, so that makes sense, to the Tron ride at one of the Disney parks. I don't know if it's Disneyland or Disney World, but one of them. Trent Reznor, the man that would bring us, or that has brought us, the Downward Spiral, which has many lyrics in it that would make any mother or grandmother clutch her pearls with disgust. That guy is now officially a Disney composer, which means they're using his music at the parks. Makes sense. The ride is Tron Legacy Light Cycle Run, right? No, not Legacy. Tron Light Cycle Run will feature an original score by the industrial mastermind of Trent Reznor. You'll be able to strap into your little light cycle, hurtling through a digital landscape, and have your wholesome family fun soundtracked by the architect of 90s industrial angst that is the voice of a bunch of black-wearing goth kids the world over. Honestly, this has got to be one of the most beautifully bizarre pairings of all time. I can only imagine that the pre-ride safety video is just going to be the video for Closer on loop, because, yeah. So this is either officially a sign of the apocalypse or one of the greatest things to have ever happened, and I'm kind of leaning towards both, honestly. And that's really the stuff we got to talk about for news. So let's talk about suggestions this week. Our suggestion is Mastodon's Blood Mountain. If you're looking for a metal album that is a certified no skips classic, then you have to go listen to Blood Mountain from Mastodon. It is a progressive, sludgy, conceptual masterpiece, as are all of the early Mastodon works, that's all about climbing a mountain and fighting monsters on your way to the top. It's complex, it's heavy, and it is absolutely required listening for anyone who is a fan of the genre. So go check out Blood Mountain by Mastodon. So, I am old enough that one of my first computers, not the very first, my very first computer didn't have a hard drive, but one of my very first computers had a turbo button, and it probably just made the fans go faster, but I honestly thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Now, my current graphics card has enough of a power draw to power a small city for some significant amount of time. Also, I can watch a very beautifully rendered horse stumble down a hill. It's progress, right? Anyway, let's talk tech. Follow-ups and corrections for gaming and tech. We do have a few quick follow-ups. We have Alibaba's Qwen 3 Max is now in preview, so we have yet another AI LLM out there, another contender for the AI wars, because we definitely needed a couple more of those. We have the second chapter of Dune Awakening is on the way, titled The Lost Harvest, bringing with it a new map and features for all of the spice hoarders out there. You're welcome. And finally, we have Helldivers 2 with a new update players are raging about. It's the Into the Unjust update, because nothing brings gamers together like shared outrage, though it does sound like it is being very quickly squashed. So congratulations to the developers on that one as well. New trailers in gaming and tech this week do not exist. They did not drop anything that's really of note, so avert your eyes and let's move on. All right, so regular ass news, we got the big one, that is Hollow Knight. After years of memes, delays, and a fan base that was starting to resemble some sort of crazy death cult, it is finally released. And once it was released, for a very glorious moment, there was peace. But then very quickly, almost immediately it would seem, that peace was very, very quickly shattered as the entire world, it would seem, tried to download and play the game at the exact same time. The game rocketed to the top of the Steam charts, pulling in a staggering number of concurrent players. Last I saw was something close to or maybe over 600,000 concurrent players just in the first day, and that's considering how bad all of this went. That's impressive. This very biblical flood of gamers almost immediately, like I said, broke the Steam storefront, the PlayStation Store, the Xbox Store, and the Nintendo eShop, all at the same time. With players everywhere reporting error codes and down servers, it was just a mess. It is a tale as old as time, though. It's a massively hyped game finally releases after years and years of speculation and fan desire, only for it to melt the infrastructure through which you can get said game into a bit of a puddle. So congratulations to Team Cherry. You made a game that was so anticipated that you very literally broke the internet. And to those of you who actually managed to download it and get in and play, I really hope it was worth the wait, because I still haven't played it yet. In other news, we're going to go quick on this. In other news, we have a company called Pace, P-A-C-E, an anti-piracy company. They are rolling out their own Fusion AI, they're calling it, to protect AI models from being stolen, because nothing says meta like an AI, aside from maybe an AI that is designed to protect other AIs, probably from AI if you think about it. Also, Switzerland has entered the AI chat, as it were. They have released their very own open source model to residents, it would seem, for what end goal still kind of remains to be seen, but it's really interesting that the Swiss government is really getting in on the AI game, so there's that. And then possibly our other biggest piece of news here is the Warner Brothers is officially suing Midjourney. The studio is suing the AI image creator for, quote, copyright infringement, accusing them of also, quote, brazen theft. This is one that we're definitely going to be keeping tabs on, so stay tuned for future editions of the follow-up section here in Gaming and Tech. But our final piece here is there's a new Pokemon thing that really is worth noting. It's really just a updated version of a Tamagotchi. This is kind of in the realm of shut up and take my money for most millennials, it would seem. But not only is it basically a Pokemon inside of a Pokeball that is just a Tamagotchi, you have to take care of your Pokemon, but you can like pet it and stuff, so that's really weird. It's also worth noting that there are only 150 different Pokemon pre-programmed inside the ball. Very much remains to be seen if it is upgradable or not for other Pokemon that you can then add to the library. I don't know. If you're interested in this, let's talk about it in the comments, but either way, let's move on. And that puts us into this week's gaming suggestion. Honestly, if I were to suggest anything other than this, I would get laughed out of the room. So, suggestion this week is Hollow Knight Silksong. It exists. It is real. This is not some sort of hallucinatory dream in which you are playing all of your favorite games. If that were the case, we'd all have Earthbound 3. Like, this is actually happening. It only costs about 20 bucks, and assuming the servers are up and functioning again, which I'm sure they are, then you really have no reason to not go get this. Go experience the game that we've kind of all been collectively hallucinating for the past however many years. Your suggestion this week is Hollow Knight Silksong. Go check it out, because I know I'm going to. So I've come to conclude that there are two different kinds of people in this world. The first kind of people see a comic book and go, oh, that must be a fun story. And the second type of people see a comic book and immediately start to calculate and plot and scheme and try and figure out exactly what the potential graded value of said comic is going to be in future markets. I'm proud to say that I'm actually not really in either of those camps. I really just care about the lore. So there's that. So follow-ups and corrections here in Comic Books and Books, not really anything here to see. I'm working on getting the solicitations into this section. I finally found a source that does them digitally, so it's easier for me to go through them. But this week is not the week that we're putting that in here, apparently, because it was a lot of information to deal with. So there's that. But yeah, continuing on. Let's talk next about trailers. There were no trailers this week for Comic Books and Books because they're books. Sometimes we get comic book trailers. I don't know that I've ever seen a book trailer, but either way, moving on. That puts us into regular ass news, and the first piece is gonna be the big one again, and that is CGC, who are, if you don't know, CGC are the official grading company for comic books. They're the ones that determine the worth for comic books. This is huge for collectors and speculators in the space. It means if you have a comic signed, it's the Image Signature series that they are starting to get into. So if you have a comic signed by one of the Image comic founders, i.e. Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, etc., you now can officially get that graded and authenticated with a fancy new label that you will probably then hermetically seal into a box that means you can't actually read your comic anymore, but that's neither here nor there. This is honestly just kind of CGC printing money for anyone who was smart enough back in the 90s to actually get their comics signed by then lesser known in the realm of comics, very famous, but in the bigger world, lesser known at the time, writers and artists and such. It will validate the authenticity, and in so doing, let's be honest, very likely jack up the price for said comic book. So my suggestion to you here is go dig through your long boxes, go find them in your parents' basement or wherever the hell they are, go dig through your long boxes, find that issue of Spawn #1 that you got signed back at Comic-Con in the 90s and send it in, see what it's worth, because that very well could be your new retirement plan. Speaking of solicitations, there is a lot there. I will link to a place that you can go check them out if you care. We have a bunch of awesome stuff coming from Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, and IDW. Start adjusting your pull lists. Again, I will try and publish links in the comment or in the description of this video or episode rather. I will put that down in the description so you can go start adjusting your pull list. If you're looking for something to do right now, there is a metric ton of new science fiction, fantasy, and horror books that dropped in September, so I will drop a link to that list as well. Over 100 titles will have hit the shelves by the end of this month, so good luck finding something on that list that you want to start with, because there's going to be a lot of bangers on there. I am absolutely sure of it. But that brings us to our suggestion for the week. Suggestion this week is a little bit of an unexpected one, but I've kind of started growing on this one, or it's been growing on me. Either way, it's a carbuncle. We have Absolute Batman. For fans of The Dark Knight, Absolute Batman is an interesting new interpretation of said Dark Knight. Comes from writer Scott Snyder, artist Nick Dragotta. Colors are by Frank Martin, and lettering by Clayton Cowles. This is the kind of book that you don't just read, you experience, because it is a dramatic shift away from what you know. There is no millions of dollars. There is no Alfred. This is just a crazy man in a suit fighting crime, and it's kind of interesting. So if you are a fan of Scott Snyder, like I am, if you can, sometimes he's a little divisive, but I feel like he's one of the better ones on the divisive side of things. If you dig that, then absolutely Absolute Batman is the recommendation. Go check it out. We live in an age where there are more streaming services than there are days of the week. In order to find what you want to watch, you need a flowchart, a team of accountants, just to keep track of what show is on each of these services, only to, once you finally get around to watching it, find out that it's been pulled unceremoniously very early or canceled or what have you, or worst case, deleted entirely for some sort of tax write-off. So this being the TV news, let's see what's worth the password hunt, if you will. Follow-ups and corrections this week. First off, we have Stephen King prequel series It, Welcome to Derry. They dropped a release window for the HBO release, so get ready for some creepy clowns. We have streaming ratings are in for August. If you care about which shows are winning the Great War, link will be down in the description. But the big follow-up, I feel like this week, is more Scrubs announcements. We now have an official word that John C. McGinley has confirmed that he is going to be on the cast for the revival of Scrubs as well, meaning we will officially get Dr. Cox back to verbally abuse another generation of interns, and I couldn't be happier about it. New trailer this week, we have season 2 for Landman, Taylor Sheridan's other show. This one stars Billy Bob Thornton and Demi Moore, and it looks like more rugged dudes doing rugged dude things, as is Taylor Sheridan's wont to do. And then regular ass news, we've got a big one that is sure to piss off purists of the Harry Potter franchise the world over. But let's talk about it. The remake of the Harry Potter is going to be a series. We know this. The first season, this is kind of TLDR, first season of the series on HBO Max is set to be the first book. So they are retelling the first book. New season of a show means we're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 4 to 8, possibly even 10 episodes of said series, which means about an hour per episode. Likely, there's a lot more to do with that much time. Now, when this was initially announced, everyone was like, this is going to be awesome because now we can get into all of the nooks and crannies that we had to kind of gloss over for the movies, because it's a very different world between an hour and a half to do a movie and then 10 hours to do a TV show. The most recent report here is that they're now announcing a reinterpretation of sorts for this and not just getting into those deeper details like we were hoping. Apparently, just doing a faithful adaptation of a book is not good enough. They, of course, have to put their own spin on it. So far, the only thing that they have announced, but this is so far, the only things that they have announced that they're going to be changing are going to be changes to Lucius Malfoy and Cornelius Fudge, who were not in the movie, but also were not in the book. They were referenced in the book, but they were not actually in the book. This, very honestly, is the kind of creative hubris that drives fans nuts. And we have seen this a million times before. A new studio gets the rights to a property, and instead of just trusting the source material that made it popular to begin with, some executive somewhere just decides that they know better than the original author, and they change something. It rarely, if ever, ends well. But this time, because we do have J.K. Rowling associated with the production staff, maybe it'll be okay. The real question here, though, is for HBO Max, if you want to pay for the Harry Potter name, but you don't want to make Harry Potter, why don't you just make a new wizard show? And please, leave the classics alone. In other HBO Max news, we have a new series being developed based on the Conjuring franchise. I'm sure all of those jump scares are going to translate just as well from the big screen to a phone screen. Come on, guys. Black Mirror creator Charlie Brooker has announced that he has a new non-Black Mirror series in development over at Netflix. No announcement on name or anything like that, so we'll be keeping tabs on that one because Brooker is always a win. And then rounding out regular ass news is the video game Life is Strange is getting an adaptation over at Amazon Prime Video to be exact, because every video game must eventually die a horrible, horrible death getting adapted to a new series on streaming. That brings us to our suggestion for TV this week, and if you're not watching this, then that is definitely something you need to do, and that is Alien Earth. Noah Hawley is a genius. He's the guy that brought us the Legion TV show. He was originally supposed to bring us a Doctor Doom movie, but that fell through. And then he was going to do an Alien movie, which also kind of just evolved into Alien Earth. He's also the guy that brought Fargo from the movies to the small screen. So he is some sort of strange and unique mutant, and we need to celebrate him because this might be the best thing he's put on a screen in front of your face ever. I cannot state enough. I've honestly only watched the first 2 episodes, and I will put them right up there with the first 2 movies. They are that good. And episode 5, I hear, is approximately a proper movie in the series as well. So you're getting a twofer with this one. So go watch Alien Earth. Noah Hawley is the showrunner and just can't do anything wrong, I think. Going to the movies these days is kind of a crapshoot, right? You're gambling a little bit because it could be the most amazing thing you've ever seen before in your life, or it could be a 2-hour CGI sludge fest that kind of feels like it was written by an algorithm somewhere. But there is an upside to this. At least the popcorn costs more than a gallon of gas. Let's talk cinema, shall we? Quick updates for the movie section. We have Street Fighter. The movie has officially announced its cast, set a release date. You can follow the link in the description, get that information. Let's hope that this one is far better than the last time they went out and tried to make Street Fighter into a movie. But, you know, Orville Peck is always a win. Anyway, James Gunn has posted new images from his upcoming, new teaser images for his upcoming Superman Man of Tomorrow. And he announced the name of the next Superman movie. The release date is July 9th of 2027, but I will bet you dollars to donuts that date moves a lot. And then that puts us into regular ass news, doesn't it? Regular ass news. All right, so the story of the week here is Sir Michael Caine is coming out of retirement. That is correct. Michael Caine, who retired, I believe it was last year, might have been a little bit longer ago than that, is unretiring, as it were. So what did one of the most iconic voices in cinema history decide was worth coming out of retirement for at the age of 92? Is it a Scorsese flick? Is a new Christopher Nolan mindbender? Does he owe the mafia a favor for something? Nope, it would seem that he has chosen to come out of retirement for none other than a Vin Diesel movie. That's right, The Last Witch Hunter 2. I honestly wish I were joking about this one. He is going to be reprising his role alongside Vin Diesel in the sequel to a movie that most of us forgot existed. You honestly have to respect a man that is 92 years old, though, and does something like this, because he is obviously just doing whatever the hell he wants. He could have ended his career on a high note, but no, Michael Caine has chosen chaos. And by chaos, I mean Vin Diesel. And God bless him for it. In other news that will actually make you feel things, we have Ryan Reynolds producing a documentary about the late, great, epic comedian John Candy. The documentary is called I Like Me. He's going to be taking it on tour, much in a similar fashion as Kevin Smith does. There's only approximately 6 dates on this tour as it stands right now, so he's not doing quite extensively like Kevin Smith does, but it will be in theaters eventually. In news that will make you question reality, we have a new Amityville horror movie in the works by Amazon MGM, because that horse is more than just dead. It's a freaking skeleton at this point. And in one of the more delightful pairings in movies this week, or in honestly in any length of time at this point, we have Jim Jarmusch with a new film called Father, Mother, Sister, Brother. That honestly, Jim Jarmusch is kind of just a win as a director anyway. I've seen very little of his work that is not great, not at least decent enough to watch a number of times, but this one very specifically stars Tom Waits and Mayim Bialik. I know I mispronounced her name, I can never say it correctly and I apologize, but Tom Waits and Mayim are always a win, and so this movie is going to be great. And that brings us to our suggestion for movies this week. If you are in the mood for some 90s comic book movie awesomeness, then you can go watch Spawn, the 1997 movie, for free over on YouTube these days. Is it a perfect film? Absolutely not. But what it does have is a perfect CGI-free suit for Spawn. The cape, though, very much CGI, which has not aged very well. It also has John Leguizamo dressed as a demonic clown, so what's not to love? Plus, the soundtrack is pure 90s metal angst. It is definitely a fun, grimy relic, kind of a bygone era, but also kind of a reminder of how cool comic book movies used to be. So go check out Spawn for free on YouTube. That is your movie suggestion for the week.
Maybe. It's classified.
And that brings us to the Rumor Mill. So welcome to the Rumor Mill. This is the place, this is the back alley stage of the internet where speculation is taken as fact. We have anonymous sources respected as gospel, and every blurry photo holds the keys to the future. So won't you join me, please, in separating the plausible from the pathetic? Confirmations and refutations, nothing has been confirmed or shot down this week, so continue on, please. No new sources for any of those old rumors, so they're just going to remain old rumors. But we do have a couple of new rumors to get out of the way, so let's talk about those. First, we have a couple of whispers about Tobey Maguire reportedly being spotted in London. Rumor is that he's either going to be filming for Spider-Man 4 or, more likely, we have Tobey Maguire coming back for the Doomsday movie, because that's also filming right now. Why are people thinking whatever? 75% likely that we're going to be seeing Tobey Maguire in Doomsday, not in Spider-Man 4. And now for the big one. This is possibly franchise altering. We have an Avengers Doomsday rumor that supposedly is a leak, but I don't buy it. It concerns the big bad of the movie himself, Mr. One and Only Doctor Doom, but it should be noted that we're only calling him Dr. Doom. Well, we'll get into that. The rumor, coming from some very shaky sources, suggests that Dr. Doom that we're going to see in the movie is not actually going to be Victor Vaughn. It is going to be an evil version of Reed Richards. They're going to play it as he's from an alternate universe, went crazy, took on the Doom persona, and then just decided to kill everyone in the process. So far, all of the regular channels that are disseminating this information are not getting a good reception to this rumor. Any fans who are catching wind of this are really rolling their eyes so hard I can hear it now. The idea of an evil variant of a hero is kind of so played out at this point as to be laughable in pop culture. Granted, we haven't really seen it in Marvel movies yet, but ew. This rumor, if true, feels so cheap and lazy as to undermine one of the greatest classic comic book villains in existence. Because of that, and honestly, like, if Marvel were to go this direction, I feel like they know well enough that this would sit so poorly with fans that it would never make even close to any of its money back. So for that reason, we are giving this approximately a 20% likelihood that we're going to be seeing this kind of subversion of expectations, which honestly modern Hollywood likes to do. I just don't see it happening this time. And then we have my personal speculation with all these rumors of legacy characters returning. I'm hearing from my own completely made up sources that we will be seeing in Doomsday Howard the Duck. And in said Doomsday movie, he is going to be revealed to be the love child of Thor and Hela, and will lead his own Disney Plus series, Duck Dynasty Asgard. No, that didn't sit well. All right, fine. There's no speculation this week. Let's just move on. And now let's talk about housekeeping for the week. It brings us to the end of the video and stuff. So next week, as I warned you 2 weeks ago and last week as well, next week is going to be a dark week. We very likely will not be posting any regular content on the main channel. There might be some stuff, mostly just the clips and stuff from today's episode, going up on the secondary channel, but really nothing to write home about. Kind of big event in my personal life that needs to be taken care of, so we're just not going to be focusing on YouTube next week. The last week's episode was up late, and I told you in those social media posts that I would address that today with this episode, and so in so doing, really the long and the short of it is weird audio glitch. For some reason, my camera, this microphone right here that I wear every time I'm filming, didn't work, but the mic on the body of the camera did. So I had a lot of editing to do to that audio in order to make it listenable. That's why, you know, the weirdness with the audio that I addressed on screen. So for those of you who only listened to last week's episode, you're not hearing things that was legitimately different sounding audio. Thank God AI is to the point where such things are less of a hurdle anymore, because in previous years that would have just totally sidelined last week's episode and I would have just tried to start fresh with this week's episode. But it was salvageable. It honestly didn't sound half bad, so super grateful that I actually do have some sort of AI subscription, even if it is to Adobe. But saved my ass last week. So yeah, it just took me a little while to not only figure out how that version of their AI worked, but then also to then get it to sound as close to the other audio as possible. So that's why it took an extra 2 days to post last week's episode. And then also I need to address this because I've kind of alluded to this a couple of times, but now I've officially pulled the trigger. There will not be any episodes of That Just Happened until next season. We are coming to the end of the regular season anyway. Usually in the off season we touch on that kind of stuff, so we will very likely continue to do that just because there's less production involved in the off season content. Right now I'm nearing a completed pattern for this new format for the main videos. So once that gets locked into place and is solid, then I'll worry about doing That Just Happened, and probably the shout out show, honestly, because the new way of producing the show frees up a little bit of time. So if I can get another shout out show situation going, then we'll do that as well again. But as it stands right now, focusing on the main episode and reactions, just because I can kind of hammer those out. No more That Just Happened until next year. But that, nerds, is all of the news that is fit to print. So we will be back next week to sift through more of the wreckage that is pop culture news and give you everything that is worth hearing, so you don't have to sift through the wreckage. That being said, we are going to sign out. So always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it is probably here, and I appreciate your face.